Welcome into another Chi Time Live. And on this episode, I have for you, well, you can see him there, can't you? If you're watching this, Matthew Liam Gardner is in the house. All right, all right. Not to say that I'm excited. I am excited, really excited about having you here, man. Now, you describe yourself. It's very difficult to actually describe you, I feel, but you've come up with words of being an Aquarian age sage, which I love. And an embodied messenger from the future. And here to help lead humanity into a new Earth reality. Absolutely. And to me, you're a high octane coach with a heart of liquid gold who's there for us all. I don't know how you manage it. Totally into quantum abundance and a soul frequency leader activation. Mystic timeline weaver, and into the sacred unions of the New Earth leadership. So welcome into Chi Time, Matthew.
Thank you, sister. Thank you so much for having me here. Yeah, it feels really good to be here. It feels really good to be looking into your eyes. It feels really good to know that there are human beings all over the world right now, and especially in the UK, joining us for some Chi chats and some Chi drop-ins, a little bit like bit of a Chi shake here and there. Dude, I'm really excited. It's going to be fun. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
Oh yeah. There was me not mentioning Chi, and you went and said it. So the Chi word is officially out of the stable again, because you can't keep a good Chi down, really. And so just a little bit of backstory here. Just to be honest, bit of a fessing up that it's taken 1 year to get Matthew on this show. Not lying, but I now know why. Because this is when it needed to be. And, you know, we were both in each other's orbits this time last year when you were running some challenges, because you were were you in Australia then, and you're now in Bali?
Yeah, I was in the Gold Coast, Australia.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And then, you know, we've kept in touch since then, various things, batting backwards and forwards. And then what happened was that incredible story of the Earth Elders and the galactic fire. And this is an incredible story, people, because it's something that Matthew manifested in the space of, what was it, 2 weeks?
Yeah, it was extraordinary after 3 days. It was mind-blowing after 7 days, and it was a whole other reality after 2 weeks. Yeah, so I think over 2 weeks, about 40,000 people landed in this group. You know, over 3 weeks, 45,000, like some really incredible numbers in this Facebook group that was essentially a flag in the ground for this moment in time in history. You know, a really interesting moment in the human story right now. And I'd love to take credit for it, to be honest. I'd love to take all the credit for it, but I feel like it was one of the first times in my life I truly surrendered to vesselship, to being a vessel for something greater than myself to work through me. And I just, you know, just pledged my time, my life force, my love to allow through whatever was here to come through. And what came through was this extraordinary group with hundreds of leaders and healers and mystics and witches and like integrated shamans and, you know, just the NLP practitioners and the sound healers all coming together to just add to this collective fire to hold point for humanity in this moment in time. And I just got to be, like, to be honest, I got to be the flag holder. My job was probably the simplest and the hardest. Like, hold the flag at the center of the fire while you know, the fire burns higher and higher. And, you know, over those few weeks, like I said, 45,000, there's now 53,000 as of yesterday in that group. So, you know, 53,000 human beings in this one space, just like being served with this frequency of healing and love and just deep intention for togetherness in this moment in time.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And the way that this came about, the way that it birthed, as you said, it's this vessel ship, is when we get out of the way and our thinking minds don't cogitate, and we get into the flow of the energy of what's there, what wants to be birthed through you. You just brilliant at this. Have you always been like this? Have you always been able to birth things through you quite naturally?
Yeah, yes and no. Like, the yes part of the answer is that I've always been extraordinarily good at starting things. And the no part of the answer is that I haven't always known that. So I've always been really good at starting things, and then thinking that I was the one to carry to hold point as time went on. But really what, I talk about like the archetype of the bear. It's almost, I play my life is almost naturally in its natural seasons and rhythms, a lot like a bear. When there's a chase, or when there's something to be lifted, or when there's energy, this big roaring life force comes forward and does the thing that it's here to do. And then the bear rests and sleeps in the cave and, curls up in a ball and enjoys the berries one by one. And, I didn't know this about myself for a long time. So I, for a long time, existed in a paradigm where I would do this extraordinary lifting, just engaging all of my life force, engaging every piece of me, and just really giving all of myself to a thing, but then doing it unsustainably, sticking with it in a way that just didn't work for me at a human level, at a body level. And it would just lead to varying kinds of burnout or disinterest. Like, why would you do the thing if it's killing you bit by bit, and so that was my reality for a really long time. And then I just, over the last few years, especially, I've begun to work with my natural rhythms and work with what really serves me as a creator, as a co-creator of the new earth we might talk about, as a co-creator on earth at this moment in time. And so, yeah, for me, it's just about like, what do things need to, what does the boulder need to get rolling? The boulder needs a big breath and then some heaving. And then once it's rolling, I'm not necessarily the person to keep pushing it. That's not a part of my journey in life always, right? But I can get the boulders moving. And there's a lot of people out there who can get boulders moving, but they never push a boulder, or they push a boulder and they try and keep pushing that boulder, even though maybe the best way as co-creators is to call others in to stand beside them and push that boulder, or even call in people who are better at, maintaining boulders than the original pusher. And so that's my current journey in life, is like calling in and standing beside others who are really good at this piece, at like holding the boulders, keeping the momentum rolling. And, if we keep enough of the right boulders rolling in this moment in time, there's going to be some profound change that happens across the world. And that's what interests me.
Yeah. Yes. So as you speak, I'm getting the transmission. I'm getting the message that's coming through your story for me about that, about you don't have to do all the work. Find what it is you're good at, and then that encourages others to come and work alongside. And so we are moving into the era of collaboration, but this is pure heart source essence collaboration. This is sacred alliance collaboration. This is something we recognize and as being part of our truth. And again, is this something that you have grown to find out, or have you always been in that collaborative connection with people as you've grown up?
Yeah, I mean, I like how good does it feel to have a relationship with someone, a friendship, a collaborative relationship, a love relationship where there's a shared vision or a shared intention even, and you're like, there's both life forces, or there's multiple life forces moving toward this shared intention. It feels, to me, that just feels like the fundamental truth of what it means to be human. And if you look at the collective, humanity as a collective, as just a really fundamental idea, all humans on earth in this moment in time. Well, that was the case once upon a time, and the Aboriginal Australians talk about the dream time, the dreaming, and they talk about a new dreaming coming as well. But the whole idea is that they dreamed up, that the original people, the original beings here on earth or in the space around earth, or whatever your belief systems are, dreamed up this reality. They dreamed up the mountains, the rivers, they dreamed up the kangaroos and the bears, and they dreamed up the landscapes, and they dreamed up the way that this all worked together. And so if you kind of just soften into whatever your belief system is and just kind of relax into that for a moment and just let that let this ancient cultures pass down wisdom land. And then you look at this moment in time, and you look at people right now, if enough people dream up a president, guess what happens? That president comes into power. If enough people dream up a way of communicating, guess what happens? Facebook Messenger, all of a sudden you're communicating across the world, and there's no boundaries in this ever developing unity piece. If enough people dream up a possibility for humanity, what happens is we co-create it. It comes into being. And so I feel like collaborations, and we can call them sacred alliances, they feel really aligned. I've been feeling alignment in my body my whole life, and I haven't always known it was that. Like when you come across someone and they speak words that you just know the frequency of those, I didn't say it this way, but the frequency of those words right there are the same frequency. There's a resonance in the frequency of the words that person's saying that also exists within me. There's something in that sound, there's something in those words, there's something in that intention that is also here in the fundamental truth of who I am. And so as I've gone through life one by one, bit by bit, finding these people whose fundamental frequencies are whispers of my own, whispers of the fundamental truth that lies within me, all of a sudden, we bunch together bit by bit, and then it's about, cool, how do we, what is it that we have to say? And we actually have very similar thing to say. What does it look like if we bring through this wisdom and this knowledge and this truth on earth? And that's the culmination of a lifetime of collaboration unfolding moment by moment, bit by bit. And so the invitation really is to find the people who's, some call it this, like the internal song, like your life song, this, like your soul song, find the people whose soul song resonates with you and come together and collaborate. And that's just the beginning. Eventually it forms out to collaborating with soul songs that are a bit different to your own, and finding ways to work there. And it's just, there's this massive harmony. If you think about it like an orchestra, there's the tuba, there's the violinist, there's the flute player, there's the sax, there's the drum, all of these instruments coming together to create this marvelous harmony. And the sax players stand together, and the percussionists stand together, and they find their tune and they find their frequency, and all these frequencies ignited just create this collective harmony that we can just sit back and receive. And the 3D version of it is a whole new reality for us as a collective, which is really exciting that we can do that.
Love it. We're all part of the big orchestra. And we opened up this on When This Show Goes to UK Health Radio with one of Matthew's favorite songs, which is Follow the Sun by Xavier Rudd, and all the little components in there, but also the frequency and energy of that sound, of those. There are certain tunes or melodies or harmonies that we just get as a resonance. The whole frequency piece is so important. And if you, I'm not going to be able to say what the first challenge was that I met with you, but it was something about our full body needing to say yes very, very decisively. But it's that kind of frequency of is this sitting well with me, or is it not? Because if it's not, bye. And having that strength inside to have enough compassion for yourself, enough respect for your the information coming through, to be able to put those boundaries up and say what isn't for you, and then what is for you. And this is massive, as we are co-creating the new earth now. And you say that you're from the future. You're an embodied future emissary. How do you pronounce that? Sage, and enabling us to really stand with what we need to go through, because we're in a birthing process right now. Mm-hmm. And it's out there in mainstream land. It's looking pretty dark. And over here in the Earth Elders Galactic Quest Code fam, we're going, we know about that, but that's not where we're placing our energy. So how are we working with the fact we don't want to hide from the realities of all the difficulties, but how do we hold the vision in our realities too together?
Yeah, that's a question. So what I'd for me, for me, what comes through in this moment in time, it may not be the answer that is supposed to come through, but it is that, like, right now, I'm not the person to answer that question. Right now, the people to answer that question are the wise women. They are right now, I want to hear from the grandmothers. Like right now, I want to hear from the medicine women. Right now, I want to hear from those who've raised generation after generation, and I want to create spaces for them to speak to just that. Because essentially, we're going through a collective change right now. And if we're not careful at a collective level, and I say we, and when I say we, a lot of the times what I mean is politicians or like decision makers, or those who kind of hold tendrils of power, at least. I really want the grandmothers to be whispering in their ears right now, because I think that it's so important to have all of our community held. And so the grandmothers, the wise, I think about villages of ye yonder of the past, like who do the chiefs go to make sure that the voice of the people is really listened to, the wisdom holders to whisper in their ear, who the grandmothers, they speak for those who can't speak. The babies, they speak for those who can speak, but their voices are quiet. The children, they speak for all of those whose experience they've had on their journey, the mothers and the daughters and the sons they've raised. And I just think that there's this really magical moment in time right now where we find ourselves, where the grandmothers, the wise women of different cultures, of different communities, we just find ourselves in this 100-year period where their voices have progressively been quietened or put to the side. And so, when you ask me, like, how do we kind of deal with this moment in time? My answer is, well, I don't have the answer. Well, I have answers, but who I really want to hear from is I want to hear from the grandmothers. I want to hear from the wise women. I want us to create a social paradigm where their voices are important, where there's space for them, where it's almost mandatory, for like every politician to have a wise woman on his shoulder, just like speak it, just like being like, don't you forget about this. Don't you forget about this, and holding this, think about a grandmother. What do you think about when you feel a grandmother? You feel this, truth, number one. They're not afraid. They're not afraid to speak the truth. Number two, there is a holding of the individual, the community, and the family. There is also this understanding that is generational. Grandmothers and wise women come with this generational piece. And so often the decisions that are being made and the way that, is probably going to be lent into by political leaders maybe, and that sort of thing right now is this very short-sighted. How do we deal with this now? How do we respond this year? How do we respond over the next 10 years? The wise women are thinking about the next 50 years and the 50 years that just came before. They're present to this vast array of their community, this extraordinary historical lineage of the people in their lives and around them. And yeah, their voices are so needed. And so the thing is that, and one of the magical things with the wise women is that they wait, often they will wait until the space is created. It's part of what comes with patience and embodiment. With wisdom comes this calmness. With wisdom comes a patience to wait for the space to speak. And it's kind of our role, the rest of community, to create these spaces. And now I'm not saying it's just about the wise women voices. I'm just really present to the fact, and this is what Earth Elders and the Galactic Fire, that Facebook group, really brought to be present for me, was I'm just present to the fact that we haven't been creating spaces. Like we wait for them to come to us rather than us going to them, which is the paradigm that worked for centuries upon centuries upon centuries. Yeah. Does that in some way answer your question?
Yeah, well, I mean, it actually brings a lot more questions and places to go to explore, because it's the grandfathers and the grandmothers. It's the wisdom keepers. It's the elders. It's those that span generations, you say, those that also span lifetimes because of what they will have learned from their elders, and how it's that the wise people in our communities now, you know, really honoring them with their stories, with their learnings, with their ability to hold and presence and be. And when we're held and we're accepted, we can be who we are so much more. And so spanning these times, forwards, future, past, ancestors, we are in the now. We're now as a culmination of all the time that's come before. All the ancestors that have come before us have enabled us to be here now. And so our grandmothers are in us. Our great grandmothers, great grandfathers, they're in us. So there's a wisdom in us that maybe could do with some space to be listened into as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you know, I like the way that I actually experience it, like there's a lot of things that I'm passionate about. There's a lot of things that really like light me up, and you know, I've already created a life for myself that is, I mean, it feels very abundant. I can go wherever I want. I can, you know, live wherever, do whatever adventure I want. I can, you know, I haven't got a family yet. It's coming. I've got my beautiful partner. It feels like my life feels quite juicy, quite excited and lit up. And then there's also, you know, what I was saying, and the wise women, like you kind of said it yourself, they're the metaphor right now. They're like, I use them as the metaphor. It is about the wise men, and it is about the cultural teachers. And I use the wise women as this metaphor for all of them, because it's so obvious that their voice like isn't being given space. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so, but here's the thing is that because we live in a world where they haven't been given space, I feel that I have to come forward to the developing wise man in me has to come forward with my life force and energy, and like coming into society to like, you know, with energy to speak to the pieces and almost like presence these pieces for society, because there isn't this holding for these really important people in our communities. And I'm not alone. I exist in a paradigm where there is this, you know, a generation, in fact, a couple of generations here who are really coming forward and almost in some ways having to do what they're not ready to do yet.
Yeah. I mean, it's that a lot of our indigenous culture has been stripped away from us, mainstream Western civilization, and we yearn for it. There's a cultural wound in every single one of us that yearns for that community, that wisdom, that ritual, ceremony, dance. I mean, that's what we're wanting to birth now, isn't it? I mean, we hear the call for community. Anyone I speak to now, they're all up for a new way of all living alongside one another in support, but also in respect for each other's personal sovereignty. And I don't know how we're going to do this, but we're certainly not going to do it in the old way. It might happen in a quick flash, because that's how things can happen now when you get into the quantum field of all possibility. So what have you got thoughts on how we create communities, or where we go with that?
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes to creating communities, especially in this new paradigm, you know, not even just new paradigm, just as we come into a new year. We're in 2020. We haven't been here before, or maybe we have. That's another conversation, you know. But we're in 2020 right now. In my lifetime, there hasn't been a 2020. Now we're in a 2020. Next year is going to be 2021. It's just like, you know, these numbers are just going to keep on rolling. We have every day we wake up, every moment we open our eyes, every moment that we, you know, like become aware of our consciousness, we have an opportunity to go where we've never gone, to create what we've never created, to bring through what needs to be brought through. And so communities always began around fires. If you think about this, like they always, like the fire would be built, the night would fall, and where would the community gather? They'd gather around the fire, and they'd, you know, cook whatever they cooked, and they'd tell stories, and it would be like, there would be this real experience of being in their bodies, and there wasn't a million things happening all at once, except maybe in celebratory times where there was lots of colors and lanterns and, you know, whatever our version of like playing Angry Birds on your phone while watching Breaking Bad on your computer and, you know, having the TV on in the background, whatever some version of that is back then. They had that sometimes in like a celebratory sense. But like, yeah, it's all about these fires, these places, this realness. It's about humanness. And the interesting thing is that we exist in a reality that is progressively valuing our humanness less and less. This is a part of what we're waking up to right now, is that we live in a paradigm where our humanness is being quantified meaning numberified, numbers. You know, we're turning into numbers. How much money do you make? How many hours did you work? How many people have you been in a relationship with? How hard did you go? And all of these, and even like, you know, or even when it comes down to like an entrepreneurial sense or in business, it's about like, cool, like, well, what's the next level of expansion? What's the next level of expansion? And so there's this, numbers make this human experience constantly about things external to ourselves. And I'm not saying to void the numbers or get rid of the numbers. I'm just saying that unless it comes back to the fire, at least whatever the metaphorical fire is of this day and age, unless it comes back to just being in our bodies, you know, like, when was the last time listeners to this right now took their last deep breath? When was your last deep breath? Like the kind of deep breath that just dropped to the bottom of your lungs and it sat there for a moment and you felt safety in it. And then you breathed out and it slowly came out and you just felt this abundance of freshness and truth and just like aliveness that comes with being in your body and being able to breathe. When was the last time that happened? You know, I know a lot of people who live their life breathing in a shallow way, not because of a condition or anything like that, but because of the anxiety of the numbers and the anxiety of the push to be something that a human isn't. But when we come back to our humanness, we come back to our bodies. When we come back to our bodies, we come back to our truth. When we come back to our truth, we come back to connection. When we come back to connection, we come back to true creation. When we come back to true creation, all of a sudden, whatever we do, however that looks, it's coming from a space of this internal truth, this internal collective truth. And that's how you create communities. And that's how communities create whole new realities.
Boom. Dropping the codes here with Matthew Liam Gardner on Chi Time. That's how you create communities. Truth of the matter sits in our hearts. So this is leading really beautifully into personal sovereignty. And we've just come out of a 6-week questing codes whole team collaboration with you and Greg and Karen and a lot of my, I can say, really dear friends. I'm putting it into words what's gone on there. So let's just begin with the stepping into quantum leadership, which is what was part of that. And really, this is about becoming the leader of your own life story so that you can then share and show by the way that you live your life. So bringing us back into personal sovereignty, sitting around the fire in our hearts, knowing our truth sounds great. How do we do this when we've got fears, anxieties, worries? We come from old paradigm stuff. We've still got things niggling at us. How do we blast this off? And I know that you're one of the men that can do this because you did this for me on one live that we did, and you just blew my old hook, lines and sinkers out of the water that needed to happen. And then when it all came down to rest, there was a new configuration. So go, Matthew, let us know how we can go on there with that.
I wish I knew what I said on that live. that would be really handy right now. How do you move forward with the fears? How do you come to fundamental truth, to quantum leadership, to being the fundamental expression of that which you are, not just as an individual, but also as a leader in the collective, just as someone coming forward to, you know, essentially what a leader is just someone being all that they are. You know, like being like you can go do leadership courses and there's value in that. And really, what does it take to be an activated leader? It takes being an activated human. And what does it take to be an activated human? It takes actually getting to know yourself and allowing and surrendering the truth of who you are, the whispers you've been getting your entire life, to actually come through. And right now, I'm not talking about age, because it gets to happen at any age. I'm not talking about culture, because it gets to happen at any culture. I'm not talking about race, because this is like the journey of all of us, every single person on earth right now. Our fundamental journey is to come to know ourselves. And in knowing ourselves, to let it through, to allow ourselves to be what we are, to be who we are. And we're so conditioned. This is what, Clara, you're talking about, this, like the fear, the family conditioning, the you can't do it. It's not, but that's not how we work in this community or in this society. Like the dysfunctional thinking, the limited thinking, the distortions that exist. And, the distortions exist across all generations. They're woven all throughout society. And when I say this distortion, what I mean is these ideas of essentially you have to be a certain way. You have to be like this, otherwise you are wrong. And so if you can't be you, then of course you're going to live a life of fear. If you can't be all that you are, of course you're going to feel held down, and it's not going to feel really abundant, or you're going to spend your life trying to shape yourself to fit into a square box, or fit into someone else's expectations, or fit into a paradigm or a way of thinking that you're adapting to, which is outside in, rather than it is your truth, which is inside out. And so, our whole life journey is to learn to listen to what is inside, because there is nothing distorted about the fundamental frequency that you are. There is nothing distorted about that which is true, that is inside you. And our greatest teacher is ourself, and our greatest, the greatest knowledge we will receive in our lifetimes isn't from a book. It's not from a teacher. It's from what we hear inside, what we allow ourselves to listen to and trust. The moment that we really own ourselves as, I don't want to say masters, but as the leaders of our own lives, the truth holders, not the truth seekers, but the truth holders. When we acknowledge ourselves as the truth holders, and we start to honor and value and have deep, deep magical reverence for the truth that we already hold, and we start listening to that, looking inside ourselves, looking for what's already here, and then allowing that to guide us, allowing that to lead our lives, all of a sudden we're living life with ourselves as the deciders of what's wrong and right, with this internal compass of truth guiding us and leading us. And so, yes, there's going to be fear. I have fearful moments every week. And my moments come when I come face to face with something that my human is so scared of. Coming to, it used to present in like speaking engagements, or, being even on like shows like this, of this nature, I'd have like a fear inside me. These days, it comes when it's like, whew, okay, I feel inspiration to do a thing. I feel inspiration to bring this thing through that is entirely different to my business. It's like way out there, and it's the Pluto of my solar system. It's like is it even a planet? And so I find myself every week faced with this, like having to surrender to the inspiration and just let it through, because that's what I do when I trust. I let what the inspiration is through, and I don't have to quantify it to death, and I don't have to numberify it to death. My role here is to trust that when I'm inspired, and the inspiration that comes through me, that is divine, that it is the divine whispers, the divine guidance that I'm going to get from inside out, and I get to follow that and let that through. And that's probably the biggest whisper I've got for listeners right now, to really consider a reality where we're listening to what's inside and having a life journey of surrendering, of opening, of allowing through what is inside us to come through into the world. Think about that. That is co-creation. allowing what is inside you out into the world. It is the turning what's inside into our 3D reality. And when enough people do this, when enough people are allowing their fundamental truth, their fundamental inspiration through into the world, the entire frequency of humanity shifts. The entire frequency of the planet shifts. When I'm saying frequency, for those of you who aren't attuned to frequencies or you don't talk in this language, it's so okay. I didn't always either, and I might not be saying this sort of language in 10 years' time, I don't know. But everything has a frequency. You have a frequency, I have a frequency, these glasses have a frequency, every planet has its own unique frequency. All things have frequencies. And so right now there is this it's, you know, it's a frequency. You can track it on like sound frequency measuring devices. There is a frequency here with us on Earth right now that is the sum of the collective humanity, the animals, the planet, and it is a specific frequency. If you want to, you can even hear the sound of it, like the sound of the collective. There's devices where you can hear, like in an audio capacity, the sound of the collective, right? And so as this frequency shifts, so does our reality shift. As our reality shifts, so does the frequency shift. And bit by bit, one by one, as the inspiration comes through us and out into our reality, we just forge a whole new collective reality, a whole new Earth. And we just get to have this magical bloody experience. Boom.
Yes.
Thanks.
So thank you, Matthew. What a star. A couple of things there. The first point of co-creation is with yourself. Love it. Mm-hmm. So that to me feels like a code. You also mentioned the key one that I think I actually wrote into in the book that we all wrote together in 7 days, which was the what's already here. That was a huge one for me. What is actually already here? What are you already doing? What's already happening? Oh, brilliant. I've got to reinvent any wheels anywhere here. I just go with what is here. And that when we co-create with ourselves, we're co-creating with our soul and our spirit. I often used to wonder, you know, how do spirits and souls get on with personalities? You know, it's a thing, isn't it? It's like, whoa, we've got to find that co-creation within the multidimensional aspects of living. I always use this figure of 8 sort of energy to kind of, come on, you guys, connect in there, play nicely. And that we are able to then feel surer of ourselves inside, which means that we can keep our visions clear as the sort of new Earth that we're wanting to, that we can imagine, that we know is possible, and that we get spun off with whatever's coming in from the outside world, which we do need to know about. But in a way, when you come back into vision, then it makes you stronger. It's just like your meditation. When you come back in after you've gone off the horse, fallen off the horse, come back in, you get stronger. So each time you come back to that vision and that honesty and that truth, it gets stronger, and you recognize that compass inside is a really, really key part of your very, very truthful nature. And that has an expansive quality that it connects with everybody else as well. So God, I could talk to you for hours, and hopefully we'll do again, but we are coming towards the end of your first Chi time here with me. First one. And you mentioned that, you know, that was the biggest whisper that you wanted to say to people was around that, because your self-presence, your essence is so key, so important to us, and to anything that takes us away from it just isn't okay now. You know, and with what's been going on in the world, it is shifting and changing. We are letting go of the old, and it is messy, but there are new ways coming through. There's new innovations, there's new possibilities, new potentials, new ways of being, and to keep in touch with one another around this. So if you've got anything to say as we sort of close up here about how to stay in touch, whether the internet goes down or not, let's go with that one.
How to stay in touch if the internet goes down. That's not... I don't know. Smoke. We'll talk about fire. Smoke signals. I don't know. What's the clapping really loudly? What's the How's Morse code? I haven't touched on Morse code for ages.
Well, no, what I was thinking is that in a way, because we all connect like this and we've all got our devices and everything, and sometimes people will call us up and we'll know who it is. I wonder if we're actually exercising our connections, our heart connections through these devices at the moment, where actually we know we can rely on the heart energy and the divine source energy and the telepathy and the raising of psychic abilities, that these are all aspects of our truth that are coming through more and more now. Would you say?
Oh, yeah. I mean, what we're talking about right now, like, it's not my specialty. All I have as my guidance is my internal compass, and my internal compass says that how we relate to our humanity in 200-300 years is going to be very different to how we're relating to it right now. And what I mean by that is, like, where if there's like you might watch a movie and there's like a robot and the robot gets these like epic upgrades. Right now, everyone on the planet is going through a crazy upgrade at a spiritual level, at a energetic level, in different, like it's been proven there's other dimensions, guys. Let's like get rid of any kind of like dogma around dimensions. There are other dimensions. It is a thing. Now, what happens in them or what they're about, I'm not going to talk about today. That's not what we're here for. But the piece is that we are getting upgraded. Sometimes the upgrades are going to like hurt. Sometimes it's going to be challenging. Sometimes, I don't know about you, but some of the greatest achievements or the greatest successes or most happiest moments in my life have come after some of the most challenging, horrible, like soul, like entire body shaking, reality shaking times. And so we are in those times right now as a collective. And so I don't know what comes next and I don't know how it looks. But what I can tell you for sure is that we're in the process right now, that this is like some version of evolution or spiritual evolution at very least, right? And so maybe I'd love to kind of like wrap up my kind of time here, I suppose. There is a thing I'd love to speak to, which kind of weaves into this. And it's the fact that on this call tonight, Clara, you've asked me questions and sometimes I haven't really even answered them well. But every person watching this right now knows that I cares. They know I care. They can feel my heart. They know I'm prepared to meet the conversation as best I possibly can. And this is what leadership's like. This is the kind of humanity that we're building. The answers don't even matter. What matters is how we be and how prepared we are to actually come and with all of ourselves to the space, to the community, to the conversation. And the moment we say we don't have the answers is one of the moments we become the most empowered, because guess what happens? We get to go, cool, where are the answers? Right? Or what is out there that we don't know? This idea of having all the answers, of already having everything decided, it locks us into a cage of not wondering. And the wondering that we get to do is this wondering that invites us out into the world and the world and beyond, and this extraordinary explorative adventure of life, and also an extraordinary explorative adventure of life inside as well. What's the answers out here? What's the answers in here? And the last thing I wanted to say, sister, is I feel a little bit like Bob Irwin right now, Steve Irwin's son. I'm kind of excited and Australian, But the last thing I wanted to say is, you spoke about like an embodied messenger from the future and the Aquarian age sage. Like what that is, that's literally, I did a profiling experience called Gene Keys, which of all the profiling tools or profiling systems, I love Gene Keys the best. The reason is it's poetic. It's so poetic. Like the answers you get are poetic. And Gene Keys told me those things. And when I was faced with those things, Gene Keys told me them as a profiling tool. I was faced with, am I prepared to trust and surrender to the truth of that which I am? Because when those words were read, I felt truth in my body. Now I could take the next 10, 20 years like hiding from that, not owning that, pretending that that's not my truth. Or I could take a big breath all the way down to the bottom of my lungs. I could let it sit there for a moment. I could soak in the abundance of it and then breathe it out. And as I breathe it out, I can just accept that that this is who I am. This is my journey on earth right now. And I'm prepared to do whatever it takes, to go wherever I have to go, to spend whatever I have to spend, to allow the deepest truth of that which I am to come through on earth. And I know that that is how I get to co-create. And my invitation to everyone listening, watching, to all those out there, just my invitation to you is to know that the deepest, most significant journey of your life is to come ever more and more, over and over again, into the depths and deepness of the truth of that which you are. So make your life about that, not about gaining more and pulling on more armor and, like making yourself something that you're not. It's about allowing what you are, who you are, the very fundamental truth of that which you are, which has been here all along, to come through and be realized on earth in this moment in time. And if you can, then you're standing beside Clara and myself and millions, billions others who in this moment of time are coming forward and getting to know ourselves deeper and choosing to surrender to our truth deeper and deeper. And in doing so, our entire realities, our entire experiences, our entire frequencies are shifting. And so is everything else.
Beautiful, brother. Thank you so much. I so feel you. Truth running through everything that you said there. Everything. How can people find out more about where to hang out with you?
Yeah, don't even find out. Just come hang out with me. I have the easiest way is come join me on Facebook. It's facebook.com/Matthew Liam Gardner. Gardner is Gardner. Just type in Matthew Liam Gardner into Facebook and you'll find me, and come add me as a friend. Literally hundreds of thousands of you add me as a friend. Follow me on my Facebook fan page, and let's continue these conversations. Let's, come join Earth Elders, the group. It's a philanthropic space. My commitment is to never take a cent from that space for my entire life, for that to be whatever the journey of it is, for just it to be a contribution space. So come join that and savor in the leaders and healers and musicians who are contributing their magic and medicine to the fire. And yeah. And then just let me know when you arrive as well. Tell me you came from this show and say hey.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Yay. I've got a track I want to play you, and I'm not going to play it on the live, obviously, but I know that music runs through a lot of what you do, and runs through a lot of what I do. And you were talking about us all being part of the orchestra. And I really feel that we all sing our different songs or play our different instruments, but it's all part of an overarching melody and a harmony that we're bringing through now that is birthing our new earth. So on the UK Health Radio version of this show, you will be able to hear this. You'll also be able to hear it on podcast. I have permission from the, I will have permission by the time I put it on podcast, because she's a local lass from Bristol. But it's a beautiful, beautiful track. So I will play that later. But anyway, thank you so much, Matthew Liam Gardner, for your presence in my life and in everyone else's lives that you touch. I mean, we all love you. We do. You're a big bear of a brother buddy, and just,
I love you. And just, taking a moment to celebrate you as well, sister, who you are, who you continue to be, how you continue to show up in this space and for this community and for other communities as well. You're a real institution in the UK. I've never even been to the UK. I'm about to come when lockdown finishes, but I already know about the institution, the pillar of love, hope, and light that you are for the community over there. So yeah, just really celebrating you and thanking you for the space to get to speak some words today.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. So much. Whoa. Well, let's set up something when you come over then. Let's play profoundly and invite people into the fire. Not into the fire, but towards the fire. Yeah, we'll do it. Yeah. Oh man, I don't even want this conversation to finish, but we will continue at another time, indeed, as we do. But thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. My heart is connected with all of yours. And if you've been inspired by this show, we will have others coming up. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, or come over to clarapollo.com for more stuff about Qigong, elemental Qigong training. And of course, it's the Facebook page, Chi Time Radio. You can always drop us comments on there. Just keep this conversation rolling. We'd love to hear from you. But until the next time, thank you so much for listening, and keep your chi up, my friends.